Good morning, gentlemen. Let's get back to another session of my channel's Politics and Defense Decoded. There have been a lot of developments since last time, and to my mind it appears that we are moving closer and closer to war, the Third World War, and it's looking absolutely ominous. After all, I do recollect, and you'll all recollect, that Europe was the playground of two world wars in the last century. Two world wars when all the dictators ruled the roost. Something similar is happening now. Putin is cornered, and that's a very bad thing. I do recollect reading a statement by the French President Macron when he said, "Please don't humiliate Putin because that will be very dangerous." But that's precisely what's happening. Nobody seems to really understand that Russia is a nuclear power. And Putin is not going to lose. He can't show face to the world if Russia loses. He's got to win. At least show that he's gained something. That being the case, what next? But the next is being decided by the Western powers. The Anglo-Saxons sitting at the back and, doing all the screwing. Now we have the news that Finland and Sweden want to join NATO. A little bit back of history, in 1992, when the Soviet Union broke up, an assurance was given by the Americans that NATO will not expand eastwards. Security of Russia would be respected, but nothing was given in writing. The Americans are very clever, they don't write anything. And just within 7 years, in 1998, Bill Clinton started expanding NATO eastwards. Why? They wanted to make Russia the enemy and have the raison d'etre, what do you say in French, the reason to have the alliance. Russians were worried, but they were not a power at that time till Putin came, and when he came, he started building the Russian power and the muscle. He's not a patch on Stalin, let's accept that fact, but he's okay as far as Russia is concerned. He's got Russia in his heart, and he wanted security grantees, but the Americans are not ready to give anything in writing. They wanted Ukraine also into the net, and now Finland, which has been neutral for decades, wants to join NATO. And the same thing goes with Sweden. Both these countries actually are very small countries. They got no locus standi in the world, if you ask me. Who's really bothered about Finland or even Sweden? Other than the Swedish actress, Bo Derek. I don't think there's anybody interested in Sweden, or at least in our part of the country. Nobody's interested in Southeast Asia. But we are interested when these countries do certain acts which are going to lead to a world war. And that is what matters. Now, Finland and Sweden know, and they very well know, that once they join NATO, they are going to antagonize the Russian bear. And that's going to be terrible. Russia is the biggest nuclear power in the world. It's got more nuclear arsenal in their arsenal than the Americans, bombs, missiles, and the latest weaponry. And I am absolutely sure that if Putin is pushed to the wall, he will use it. I don't think this simple home truth is going to the hand into the brains of the Western powers, the leaders. I recently had a letter from a friend in Switzerland, and she wrote to me and said, "I'm greatly perturbed. The people here are perturbed by the actions of our leaders who are leading us to destruction." That's it, destruction. The leaders of Finland and Sweden do not know what they are playing with. They're playing with fire, their own doom, the destruction of the civilization. And I feel sad if the Western civilization is going to be destroyed, because we have had very good and ancient civilizations like the Greek and the Romans, and even the British, who colonized the world. But now, if you want to sustain it, you've got to live and let live. You have to let the Russians accept the Russians as they are, which they don't want to. They want Russia to be finished, which is not possible. Russia is a nuclear power. It's the biggest country in Europe, and it has a semblance of backing from China. China is watching the whole situation very closely. And this is where the Western powers, led by Joe Biden and his sidekick Boris Johnson, really are not understanding. They don't seem to know what's happening. They're going by very short-sighted things. They think that they'll be able to pressurize Russia by economic sanctions and all that blah blah, but it's not going to work. The Russian economy is resilient and they've already survived the sanctions. The rubles bounced back. The Russians have got their own economic advisors. They know how to deal with it. And they very well went about it in a way which the Americans and the Western powers didn't accept. They asked for payment in rubles for the gas and the oil which they were supplying. And willy-nilly, they have to agree. And the two countries of Europe who are absolutely desperate if I'd say, and that is Poland and Bulgaria, their gas has been stopped and they are in any case of no consequences, and they don't realize that they had never been great powers in the world earlier. They won't be even now, and just becoming member of NATO is going to help them anywhere at all. American soldiers are not going to come and fight the battle for them. Even Taiwan, let's be very clear, Taiwan is not going to get any help from the Americans other than that aircraft carriers moving here and there, and they are going to win any war. You need the infantry soldier on the ground, the man to hold the field. And no less a man than Field Marshal Montgomery, deputy commander of the Allies in the Second World War, had said, you can't win a battle without the infantry. How do you win? You win a battle with rockets, fire and all that. Is that it? Who's going to go and take control of the land? And that is the biggest flaw in the Western military thinking. Recently they held an exercise in Norway. A lot of fanfare, tanks, this thing, that thing. What's the use, I say? What's the use? They're not going to work. The manpower is so limited. And if you're going to use nuclear weapons, the Western Europe is going to be wiped out. England, 5 nuclear bombs over. Finland, what is it Finland? 4 nuclear bombs over. Thermonuclear bombs. France is playing its cards very adroitly. Macron is a wise man. He knows what's the danger of antagonizing Putin. And he's not doing it. To an extent, the German Chancellor has been misled. But then that's part of life, The smaller countries of Europe is what I'm worried about. Belgium, Bulgaria, Romania, they don't know that the end is in sight, it's in the right, and if they continue in this present path, that is, if they continue in the present path of trying to join NATO and thinking that the Americans are going to come and help them and all that, this is not going to happen. They tried the economic sanctions on Russia, haven't worked. India has not accepted it. India is buying oil from Russia, they're buying coal from Russia. India is having trade with Russia. India is buying weapons from Russia. China, the same thing. So, what's it going to do about it? It means China and India constitute half of humanity, and if they are almost on the side of the Russians, you think you're going to win any year? Do you think the countries with 20, 30 million people are going to dominate the world? No way. I think be realistic. That's what I tell the Americans and the Western players. Please be realistic. Don't live in a dream world, Oh, that old age, the colonial age is over. It doesn't exist now. When the British could send gunboats to Zanzibar and they won the battle inside 3 minutes. That's all over. The British won the battles in the Boxer Rebellion thanks to the Sikh and the Punjabi army soldiers. It's all over. It doesn't exist now. The British have been reduced from Great Britain to Little Britain. And I'm talking not of Britain, but I'm talking only of England, which is the mother country of Great Britain. And England is going to be wiped out. This part of history, because Johnson is playing with fire. He doesn't know what's he doing. They're thinking NATO is going to be like, an ogre or something, and Russians are going to get frightened and they'll say, okay, we give up, thank you, we'll have peace. It's not going to happen that way. Russia has its security problems and they want them solved. Russia is a very big country and the Western powers must realize that it's better to live and let live. I remember the James Bond movie, Live and Let Die. They don't do that because the Russians are going to die. The person who will die will be the Joe Biden and his government and other people all around, So let's be very clear on this issue. I don't want to make a long video, but the fact is, the application of Finland and Sweden to join NATO is like signing their own death warrant. I don't know whether the Prime Minister understands, the leaders understand. Zelensky's already destroyed the country. I mean, he's thinking he's a great hero. He's not. There's such a lot of misery in Ukraine. Ukraine was the granary of Europe, finished. Ukraine fighting, lost so many dead, killed. They lost 20%, 25% of their territory. Major cities have been occupied. What's the use? What have they gained out of it? In politics, there is no ego, and this is where Zelensky committed the fatal blunder of his life. There is no ego and no personal hatred. Zelensky has a personal hatred for the Russians. There is no way anybody can convince me on this issue. So do the Poles. They have their historical problem, but that's all gone. The Katyn massacre and all, when 3,000 Polish soldiers were killed, it's all over. I mean, why keep thinking that's going to continue in the 21st century? Now, the situation is very grim, gentlemen, and I'm pretty sure we are coming to the last page. And if there is some sense of reason in the leadership of the Anglo-Saxons, they will not accept the applications of Finland and Sweden in NATO, nor will they ever admit Ukraine to NATO. I have a feeling it's not going to be a one-way ticket for Finland and Sweden and they just walk into NATO. No, sir. The Americans know that it's like catching the bear, the tail of the bear. They know grizzly bears are there in America. You catch the tail of the grizzly and he'll teach you what happens, Why I use the example of the grizzly bear? Because that's the American national animal or something. It's in abundance there. It's a very terrible and strong animal. So now, gentlemen, let's hope that sanity prevails. Matters don't come to an head. I shall close now, and I wish you all the best. And I look forward to more interactions with you. I very shortly will be talking about Sri Lanka, where there's a lot of chaos going on, and also how Taiwan is going to face up to China. I don't think you can face China at all. Anyway, that's for the next time. Farewell. Like my video, share it, and why not subscribe to my channel? Just by subscribing to hundreds of channels, subscribe to a new type, a new person, a new facet, and goodbye. And I'll close with my familiar nationalistic salute. Jai Hind.